and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the kingdom out of here, just the same. I still got the world. I still got the world. I still got the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
Good night and welcome to yet another episode of This Just In right here on YouTube. I'm Marsha Boyce, and of course with me, Justin Marvel and Neil Hoyt. Sorry, the Neil Hoyt, as always.
Right.
Have a full show of NFL action for you tonight. So sit down, buckle up, and let's get right down the road. Guys, some news breaking this Monday. Odell Beckham Jr. being ruled out for the remainder of the season. The Cleveland Browns missing out that one, confirming that he has indeed torn his ACL. The injury picked up against the Bengals on Sunday. So, Justin, I'm going to start with you. How much of an impact will this injury have on the Browns?
Here is the big shocker, Marsha. Neil, you didn't see this. It's going to have zero. And I say this in context as usual. This isn't because of Odell's numbers or him being just targeted 4 times a game, or the fact that Baker Mayfield's QBR, apparently brought up by ESPN today, that his QBR is at its lowest when he targets Odell as opposed to every other receiver like Jarvis Landry or Donovan Peoples-Jones. The problem is that we saw with Odell, when Browns will play, their division rivals, major division rivals, Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they lost, 38-7 and 38-6 respectively, even with Odell on the field. With Odell off of it, you saw what Baker looked like against Cincinnati. And I mean, it's one thing to say that he looked better with him off the field, but again, there's a reason why Cincinnati had this draft's first overall pick. They're just bad. I say all that, sorry for that roundabout stuff. I say all that to say, folks, the reality is with or without Odell Beckham Jr., the Browns are not going to beat the class of the AFC. And they don't need to get into the playoffs. Neil, their record is so paper and Charmin soft, right? When you look at the rest of their schedule, they have 2 more games against the NFC least. They have 2 games against 1-win teams in the Jaguars and the Texans. And I think, if memory serves me correct, yes, they have the Adam Gase coach winless New York Jets. Those are 5 more wins you can tack on to that 5-2 schedule. So at the very least, you should see 10-6. They'll be getting the playoffs with or without Odell Beckham Jr. at 10-6, a wild card berth, probably either 6th or 7th seed. The reality, though, as we've seen with Odell in the lineup, is that they're not going to beat the Kansas Cities, the Baltimores, the Pittsburghs, the Tennessees of the world. Get in regardless because of how soft their playoff thing, the rest of their schedule is. And that's really about it. They're going to be a one-and-done team in the playoffs. So that's why I said as great as Odell is, as such a, otherworldly talent that Odell Beckham is at that wideout spot, his absence or presence really does not make much of a difference in Cleveland.
Now, Neil, I see you chuckling. Is this a chuckle in agreement or disagreement?
Well, it's a chuckle in agreement, right? I just laughing at, Justin. And Justin has a lot of catchphrases with the NFC least. I love it. But no, when it comes to Odell, is the least. But it's a serious thing when I look at this Beckham Jr. To me, I don't see it as a situation if the Browns are going to make it, yes or no. I think the Browns are going to be fine, as Justin eloquently said. Their schedule is soft. They're 5-2 now, and they've not really utilized Odell Beckham Jr. in their offense as for his talent, for his otherworldly talent. He has been targeted 40, little over 40 times this season. That works out about 6 a game. So I mean, he's been getting his numbers, but he's not been his usual all-world self in terms of being targeted and making huge plays. My concern, though, for the young man is that at age 27, going into age 28, he's had so many major injuries, particularly with his legs, right? From his hip right down to his ankles, and now he's torn his ACL. I wonder, when I heard the news today, I was wondering if it's time that the young man tried to find a different vocation because pack
So
it up.
you're calling it quits on his career.
I just say, man, I don't think his legs could take any more of this beating because when you look at it, right, Justin was rattling off to me in the I almost said pre-game, in the pre-production meeting. He had back injuries, he had quad bruises, he has hip injuries, he has had fractured ankles, strains, and now he's had a torn ACL. So for a player that has been as dynamic and explosive as he has always been at the wide receiver position, he can he used to be able to outrun people. We have to see how he's going to come back after this. He can jump really well, jump really high. He's an all-world talent. He's a physical specimen. The problem is that he's always injured, and the injuries come with his lower body. And what I have found from personal experience, once your back, your ankles, and your knees start to go, it really is downhill from there.
Speaking like a man in his force.
Yes, sir, that's me. But really and truly, though, it's a really serious concern for the young man. He's a really great talent. And to me, it's the mental aspect. It's just not only physical, right? Like you're always rehabbing, you're always going into the gym to rehab and to fix your body. Your body is betraying you, and you have pains doing simple things. So to me, I just if he can mentally fortify himself and come back, I think he'll be all right. But I mean, I don't think he can make it past 30 at this rate.
Interesting take there, Justin. You wanted to add something else?
I'm just saying, Neil is putting all this to say it is time to look past Baker Mayfield. On your second play from scrimmage, you set up your best talent on the team to go and get injured, chasing down one of your interceptions.
Yeah.
If that doesn't tell you that this should be the end of Baker Mayfield, like you're now getting people injured because of your mistakes.
Marshall,
I don't know what else.
You see what this man doing? He going back to the boss last week when he said he should get rid of Baker Mayfield. He making a case now on why to get rid of Baker Mayfield. Well.
Yeah, but I mean, like the man was literally injured on the second play of scrimmage.
So you're saying that Odell Beckham tearing his ACL is on Baker Mayfield squarely and not just a freak accident?
Hold tight, Neil. You understood he got injured because Baker Mayfield
turned
over the football.
A pointed question. This is on Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
And you would say, if you were from office of the Browns, you would say Baker Mayfield has been so inconsistent and bad. He has gotten our all-world talent, all NFL talent, Odell Beckham Jr. injured and out for the season, and we don't know what we can get back.
Did you see the actual play itself? You saw how he got hurt?
No, I didn't see the actual play.
Well, when you have a chance, then you will come back to me and say, oh, I get you. Odell Beckham Jr. was chasing down somebody who intercepted Baker Mayfield's second pass of the day, by the way. And it was a brutal tackle. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like this is what you are so bad that you are putting your best talents in harm's way. It can't get any more comical in Cleveland. It really cannot.
Oh dear.
Guys, now let's turn our attention to the NFC West. We didn't deal, as we started to do our breakdown of the divisions last week. That's on Monday. Now let's, continue that and look at the NFC West. My question to you is, who will win this NFC West division? Some call it wild, but looking at in terms of the records, the Seahawks, they're 5-1, Cardinals 5-2, Rams 4-2, 49ers 4-3. So call it. Neil, starting with you this time.
This is going to be a very boring statement because I think, it's so funny. We had a live in Bubba's, some weeks ago. Come home, right? Come home to you, right? Justin did say that the Arizona Cardinals were going to come out of the NFC, and the way it's looking now, I would say he's partially right in that they're going to come out the NFC West. I still don't think that they're going to come out the whole NFC, but they're going to come. They're going to come out the NFC West simply because when you look at the wins that they have against quality clubs, right? They beat the 49ers. They also beat last night the Seahawks. And the rest of their schedule compared to the likes of the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks, their schedule is going to afford them the chance to get the top of the table once they take care of business in some games, and they go and win certain games, some tough games that they have to play. But when I look at the rest of the schedule, I was trying hard because I know Justin was going to come with that Arizona pick, and I was trying hard to come with some different opinion to have some type of debate here, but I can't go again.
For the Seahawks.
Say again.
Arizona over the Seahawks.
Well, the Seahawks, again, Arizona beat the Seahawks last night in a close one. The Seahawks cannot guard. They can't guard anybody. They're among the worst in the NFL on defense. Yes, their offense is all world. I mean, Russell Wilson is playing amazing, even though he looked a bit human last night with 3 interceptions. But they're playing really well. They're well coached. They have the parts to do it on the offensive end, but the Cardinals have a great balance of offense and defense. Kyler Murray is playing really well. The young man is really showing that he has the poise and the maturity to handle big game situations. The Cardinals, I hate agreeing with the man. The Cardinals defense. Last night they got a huge interception last night. In overtime to help get that field goal to win the game. So I mean, the Cardinals have a great balance of offense and defense. The Seattle Seahawks, even though they're 5-1, I think they're really fortunate to be 5-1. And when you look at the remaining schedule that they have, it is going to be a rough going down. Honestly, Cardinals have a bye going into week 8, and then I think what's his name, Kenyon Drake. He got injured there, running back. He got injured last night. He's supposed to be out for a few weeks, but I mean, with the bye coming out, and I think they have the team Miami, a soft Miami team in week 9. Week 10 is going to be Buffalo Bills, but by then hopefully he could still he could get back on the field and play. So I think the Cardinals have all the right schedule and the right pieces to make that run for the NFC West. And the Seattle Seahawks, as I think we touched on it last week, they're going to be lucky if they could get a wild card.
So you see, Marshall, the gift of foresight that I have. I spoke this before the start of the season.
Foresight or luck?
Foresight. Oddly enough, I am softening a bit on these Cardinals. Neil is no catching up. I am actually going opposite.
Are you going forward?
No. Actually, no. I am still going with the Cardinals. NFC West for the same point that you just made, because now they have a leg up on the rest of the division. They have beaten both the Niners and the Seahawks last night, so they're 2-0 in the division already. What troubles me about the Cardinals, they should really be 7-0 when you look, because if they're going to beat the 49ers and the Seahawks, as we saw last night, then you shouldn't really be losing to, I think they lost, let me check. They have 2 troublesome losses to the Detroit Lions and the Carolina Panthers, and that's it. Part of that, the announcers talked about it last night. You see Kyler Murray and his very long wind-up release. I mean, granted, he's short, so I think he can get away with that. But oftentimes he presses, so I think he has like 6 or 7 interceptions this season, which is a tad too high for me. But as Neil alluded to it, when you look at the other 3 divisions, or the other 3 teams in the division, it is almost a case of picking Arizona right now by default, because I think they are indeed the most balanced team in that division. Last night, Seattle had no right losing that game last night. But as Neil alluded to again, the defense is so porous, even after picking up Jamal Adams from the New York Jets. You were up by 10 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. You couldn't protect that lead in regular time. Arizona had to march down the field twice to get a touchdown and a field goal. And then they even onside kick in between there. They gave the Seattle Seahawks back the ball, and yet they could not protect a 10-point lead with 2 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in the game. So as I said, like, typically I would go with the best quarterback in the division, and that obviously has to be MVP front runner Russell Wilson. He has an offense that we saw last night bolstered with Tyler Lockett, who had a great game, DK Metcalf, Chris Carson, running back. Pardon?
Perfect last name.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett. And boy, they could not lock him down.
Mm-hmm.
But for as great as their offense was, as we saw, Arizona did just enough or came up with just enough big plays on defense. And you saw each of their big players making a big play when it mattered most. You saw Buda Baker last night with the interception, although he was chased down by DK Metcalf, which has led to a million NFL memes now.
That's like textbook, stay with the play moment right there. So
like, we saw Buda Baker making that great interception. Tyler Lockett went off, but then when they needed it, Drake Kirkpatrick locked him down. He allowed her going down in the game. DK Metcalf, I think, only had one reception, and that had a lot to do with Patrick Peterson on the other side. And then when it mattered most, the first-round rookie that they took this year from Clemson, Isaiah Simmons, came up with a crucial interception that they turned into the game-winning field goal in overtime. So that's why you want to go with the Arizona Cardinals, because they have enough playmakers on both sides of the ball. They clearly won that lopsided trade with Houston getting DeAndre Hopkins, who's leading the league in receptions and yards. They still have Christian Kirk and future Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald on offense. When they look, and I think the Rams are taking the field now, when they look at the LA Rams, I don't trust Jared Goff without Todd Gurley now. If I was supposed to say, like, with the exception of let's say, Carson Wentz and the kid from Minnesota right now, I'd say Jared Goff, and Baker Mayfield, of course. I'd say Jared Goff has regressed the most over the last 2 years of any quarterback, as I said, not named Carson Wentz and Baker Mayfield. So I really don't trust the LA Rams. Their defense is legit.
The game. Take a shot every time Justin says Baker Mayfield and see what
I'm laughing because it's my head, boy. Mano go a point. Anyhow,
boy, it's terrible. So as I said, like, I don't trust Jared Goff. I mean, LA's defense is awesome, obviously with the best defender in all of football, Aaron Donald, but I just don't trust Jared Goff. And then the 49ers, I would love to choose them, but they're without their best player for the rest of the season, and Nick Bosa, he's gone. And there are just too many injuries. Deebo Samuel is gone. I think Raheem Mostert has been injured for a lot of the season. And then with those injuries, and you have to rely a lot on Jimmy Garoppolo, we've seen what he has become, even in that dominant win against New England this weekend. Jimmy Garoppolo threw no touchdowns and had 2 picks in a 33-6 shellacking of New England. Like, when you're actually playing good teams, that is not going to beat anybody. So it's almost by default that I'm choosing Arizona, simply because that they have playmakers on both sides of the ball that I can trust.
Well, let us know in the comments if you agree with Justin. Really and truthfully, are the Arizona Cardinals the top team coming out of that NFC West division? And now, guys, turning the attention to the AFC North, there's only one remaining unbeaten team in the league, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Is that so, Marsha?
There's only one remaining unbeaten team in the league. So now, I know I posed this question to you guys last Monday, so here we go again now. Things looking a little bit different in a week's time. Have your views changed? Are the Pittsburgh Steelers now the best team in the NFL? Neil?
No.
What say you?
Justin?
No.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to see his reaction. Of course, they're still of course they're the best team in football right now. You can think I can say no.
Yes,
I
actually.
mean, no, well, no. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, their record it shows. I mean, they have all the right pieces to get things done. They're playing great defense. Their offense is great, even though Ben Roethlisberger, he could tell his best days are behind him. You know, they just find a way to win football games. They just get it done. I don't know. I feel like a broken record. When I saw what was on the docket today for the show this evening, I was like, I feel as though I've answered this question already, Justin Marvel. What say you?
It would appear that way, but go ahead, have your fun. You want to
No,
say
no,
so? Go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
I mean,
I'm going to get to
I mean, Chase Claypool playing really well. Juju Smith-Schuster is playing really well.
That's a nice name.
You know, Johnson, he's playing really well. I don't know. I could just keep calling names, but really and truly, as I said last week, you know, when you have a team that is great at offense and defense, and you know your quarterback is not the star of your show, and they're still winning games, and you look at the quality teams that some of the teams that they've beaten. You know, you look at the rest of their schedule going forward. I mean, they have a legit chance to obviously come up the FC North, but this is not about the future. This is not about the past. Justin Marvel, this is about the now. And I have been right about that. So put that in your paper.
All right. So, Marshall, you obviously know that I'm not going to backtrack. No, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not the best team in football.
Double down.
I'm going to double down.
The only remaining unbeaten team.
Last week, I said the Tennessee Titans had no weaknesses.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cross you, Justin. Last week, I think you wanted to make a.
Yeah, good thing I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get there now. So last week.
Tell us what was the bet that you want to make.
I can't even remember. Thank God I didn't. Thank God I didn't. No, I don't know what the.
I see.
No, I know that we were going to bet on the winner of the Steelers Titans games. I just don't know what the bet was going to surround.
Anyhow, go ahead.
I did make one error in saying the Titans have no weaknesses. There is one clear one, and that is special teams. My God,
yes,
because we should not be talking about. I'm not saying the Steelers would have lost, but we should not have been talking about the Steelers winning in regulation more so than the Steelers winning in overtime. And I'm going to get to why the Steelers are not the best team in football. But all Steven Gostkowski had to do was nail a 46-yarder and go at home, of all places, and we're going into overtime.
Yep.
But Gostkowski has missed now 5 straight field goals inside of 50 yards. So clearly, yes, the Tennessee Titans do have a problem, and it is field goal kicking. So the reason why, for me, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not the best team in football, and this is not me saying they're not good. Not you, but the Steelers were up by as many as 20 points in that second half, and the Titans were able to rattle off 17 straight, and it should have been 20 had not Keith's terrible right leg. Because back to that same issue I was telling you about, their secondary, there's just something wrong. Joe Hayden and Minkah Fitzpatrick, for the Pro Bowlers that they used to be, they are certainly not that right now. And that front seven was great. I mean, good enough to shut down Derrick Henry to the tune of 78 yards on 20 carries. And yet still, Ryan Tannehill on his lone right arm was able to rally from almost 20 down to force overtime. As I said, that game should have gone into overtime. Simply because that secondary is porous. It is almost as porous as Dallas's and almost as porous as Seattle's. I mean, you're only dealing with A.J. Brown is the only star really in that receiving core. And they had complete problems just trying to guard him. As I said, if you take away Derrick Henry from most of that contest, and you have problems containing Ryan Tannehill in that second half. I mean, make no mistake, I like their front seven, Bud Dupree, Cam Hayward, and the younger brother of J.J. Watt, T.J. Watt. I completely love that front seven. But again, when you see Baltimore and you definitely face Kansas City later on in the year, that is not going to win. So I can't put them above Baltimore. Thankfully for Neil, we're going to see Baltimore facing Pittsburgh, I think, this Sunday. But I can't put them against Baltimore. I can't put them against the Kansas Cities of the world when that secondary is so leaky and porous. Like, I came away from that game, actually, Neil, and I'm not hating again on the Pittsburgh again on the.
But Justin, I want to make the point, right? You're talking about Kansas City, but they're not going to play Kansas City anytime soon.
No, they're going to play Kansas City playoffs at some point. Like, if you're going to win,
so if you're talking about right now,
you're dealing with right now.
But I'm dealing with right now, and right now, I think Pittsburgh is a top 5 team. There's no doubt about that. But right now, they have a very, very big problem here, and that is that secondary. I can't say the same for like a team like Kansas City. I can't say the same. For someone like Baltimore. I can't say the same right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are clicking on all cylinders. Their records might not be the same, but for me, Pittsburgh has too much of a big, glaring hole for me to say that they are currently the best team in football. If you want to say they're second or third, fine, but that secondary is going to be a problem going.
Marsha, I just want to point out that when you have no losses and you're the only unbeaten team in the NFL, I think it speaks for itself.
And we're dealing with current, yes.
I'll leave it with that.
I can't not record.
On this one.
I can't not record. He has numbers 6-0, and he's beating who's in front of him. But I think this weekend against Baltimore is going to tell me all you need to know.
The future. We're not dealing with the future. Right.
We can ask again on Monday. Who's the best?
No, I don't want to ask this question on Monday.
All of a sudden, no.
No. The third week I'd be answering this question. I don't like this question.
Fair enough, and I can't argue that either.
Now, guys, AFC East. Well, AFC North. We're going to the AFC East. Turning our attention to New England. The Patriots have found themselves third in that division with a 2-4 record. Is it time for Patriots fans to start panicking?
What are we going with? I'll take this. I think it's time for concern, but it's not time for full-on panic until Monday. This same time Monday.
What's this about to say?
Yeah, this same time
Panic
Monday.
coming short. Panic coming.
As I always say, I like to put things in context, and I always say you can't look at a team's record without looking at their position within your own division. Granted, they're 2.5 games out of first, which is like behind the Buffalo Bills, but they have yet to play the Buffalo Bills in their season. So that's why I'm saying until you face Buffalo, then, I'll hold back on the panic. I will say, though, if and when Buffalo beats them on Sunday, then yeah, it is time for full-on panic in New England. I think people must realize that. I know everyone is worried about Cam Newton's numbers, and they do look awful since his return from COVID-19 protocols. He has, 5 interceptions, no touchdowns in the 2 games he's played since. But it must remind everyone he did have COVID-19, and I think everyone is looking like, as Marsha taught me in a pre-production meeting, we feel like if you don't die from COVID-19, then you're okay. The virus does not work that way. No, it's not a bad cough. It's not a flu. Granted, there are people who are asymptomatic, show no signs of the virus whatsoever. But the virus does, have major, setbacks for certain people. Granted,
diagnosis for some.
And granted, I will say, admittedly, that Cam has said nothing on that front. He has not blamed anything on having the virus. But at the same time, like flu he didn't have the cold. He didn't have a stomach virus. He had COVID-19. So I'd give him some time to recover. I mean, granted, also, again, he may never recover this season. And there are troubling signs when you are getting replaced by Jarrett Stidham, who started the season as your third-string quarterback. But I'd wait for those 2 games against Buffalo first. You're only 2.5 games out, and there's still more than a half a season left of football to play. Let us, for argument's sake, say Bill Belichick finds a way to beat Buffalo Bills, because we do know if there is one thing about Bill, he does not lose to young quarterbacks. And Josh Allen has not won a single game against Bill Belichick in his young career thus far. So let us, for argument's sake, say that New England finds a way to sweep those Buffalo games. Then he's just a mere half game behind Buffalo for the division lead. And that's why I say it is not time for full-on panic just yet. It is time for concern, especially given of Cam Newton and the fact Marshall mentioned on like early in the season. I think New England had a record high, like 8 holdouts due to the pandemic. So, and that's on their defensive side of football. So that is concerning. But until they play their 2 games against Buffalo, I would not be full on panicking just as yet.
What about you, Neil?
Well, I mean, so I think so. It's cause for concern, but I think the cause for like if I were to rate, if I had a gauge, I would say right now I'd be sweating. Right, I'd be breathing kind of shallow, simply because this New England fans have not been accustomed to this type of record, this type of situation before. They're not accustomed to losing and being in the position that they're in, right? So, I mean, as a New England fan, I would start to panic because Justin said it very well, you know. Yes, you have to wait and see the games against Buffalo, but I don't know if they can win both games against Buffalo. I know ordinarily we can say and we can rest upon the fact that Bill Belichick does not lose to young quarterbacks, but we can see that this is a completely different situation. He is missing his go-to pocket knife in Tom Brady. So, I mean, you know, you have Cam Newton coming off of COVID-19. He does not look anywhere in any type of game shape. You have a 2-4 record. The rest of your schedule, you know, at best, you maybe can finish 500 or just a game over 500. And I could, like, looking at their schedule, I could see they're going to drop some games. You know, the Buffalo Bills are going to be in there. I see they have the Cardinals. You know, they have the Rams. To me, if they lose those 4 games, that puts them at 2-8. And, you know, already that's 500 if they win the rest of their games. So I think it's time to be concerned about it. But the panic, to me, would be short term, simply because this is a unique situation, right? We have a pandemic. You know, we have a new type of system for the New England Patriots. Cam Newton now get acclimated to a new coach, new coaching staff, a new system, a new culture. Several changes. Gronk is gone, and, like, you know, there are a whole different host of things that make this a challenging situation. Therefore, I would not grade the New England Patriots in their totality on this season. But if I'm talking as a diehard fan of a franchise, right now, I would say, oh my goodness, the sky is falling. Particularly, as Justin said, after Sunday, they play the Buffalo Bills and they get hammered. Yeah, the sky is falling, Chicken Little.
No, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for joining us here on this Just to this video. Subscribe to this as comment. Let us know. Do you think that it's time for Patriots fans to start panicking from what they're seeing so far? Of course, you can also share this channel with your friends, family, everyone on your various social media platforms. And you can find us on the various platforms. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, right here on YouTube. We're everywhere. So there's no excuse to miss any update or any details from us here, any discussion point on this Just In. Now, guys, I want to move to the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons. They're currently 1-6 in that division, occupying that bottom spot. Is it time for them to just, you know, break things all up, trade Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, or give it another shot? Neil?
Anything? Oh, Neil
Justin?
goes.
No, just right ahead. You were ready for this one.
I know he waited for this.
Anything that is not nailed down, even if it is nailed down, go get your hammer, the reverse side, pull up those nails, ship it out, trade it, blow it up, whatever. We have seen the apex of this Falcons team as it is constructed. I know that people are going to tell me Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are still good players, particularly Julio Jones, and they would be, but there are 2 issues at play here. First, let's get to the real issue, and that's the financial side of the situation. And we'll start with Matt Ryan. No, he was indeed the highest paid quarterback in the NFL at one point in time. But since then, like the salaries have skyrocketed. So Matt, I can actually say he's on an affordable $20 million a year contract. The problem with Matt Ryan, and he's only 35, so I mean that's not too old. The problem, Marsha and Neil, is as I said on the live last, he carries a $40 million cap hit if he is kept on the roster for next season. And granted, if you are paying, right now people are paying hefty sums for Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz, Ben Roethlisberger, and Jared Goff. But most of those quarterbacks I just called are on winning teams. You can't be looking to pay a $40 million cap hit for a 1-6 team, a team that did not make the playoffs last season as well. Those numbers just don't add up. And then when you look at Julio is making an absurd $22 million as a per year as a wide receiver. Like, you're paying all this salary in two players, and your team is just getting worse and worse. Like, every single week they are reinventing ways to lose. The only time they're not inventing ways to lose is on their bye week. Like this is gone. Like, I'm not sure if y'all caught this Sunday's game, but they lost simply because they went into the end zone. All Todd Gurley had to do was to kneel, run out the clock instead of going to score. And no, like, you ask them to score, they can't. You ask them not to score, they score. This Atlanta team is terrible. But the second and maybe more important reason why you have to get rid of everything up, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are good players still. And there are players good enough to win you games that you should not want to be winning now when the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes is at play. They are 1-6. Granted, they are still behind the New York Jets because the Jets are winless. But my thing is, let us say, for argument's sake, you go 1 or 2 wins this season, which puts you probably like a top 3 pick. You trade Matt Ryan right now. You trade Julio Jones right now. Anything you start has to start for me as a 2021 first rounder. You can that gives you leverage to trade if, let's say, you didn't get the first overall pick. You can take your own first round pick, somebody else's that you trade for, and try to move up to get Trevor Lawrence. And why I'm so insistent on this Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, Neil and Marshall. I've been watching college football since 1998, the last year in which Peyton Manning played at Tennessee. Outside of that year, because I'm too young to really be grading footballers, the only quarterback prospect that has been better than Trevor Lawrence, in my estimation, the only can't-miss quarterback prospect I saw in college football since 98 to now was Andrew Luck. And then right behind him for me is Trevor Lawrence. I'm telling y'all, no, this is a surefire, not even Pro Bowler Martian, a surefire Hall of Famer when he eventually gets in the NFL. You can get Trevor Lawrence right now. 3 years worth of high-level football play, and you don't have to pay high-level money for it. It is like when the Seattle Seahawks won their only Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. They had him on a rookie contract, and you were basically getting Pro Bowl level play from him on a rookie contract. And that is what every single bad team for the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars, well, except the Houston Texans, because they already have Deshaun Watson. But every single bad team, Atlanta Falcons included, should be looking to do. Like, and I'm even going to toss the Detroit Lions in that mix. Like, you just can't miss out on Trevor Lawrence, especially when you're going to get him for 3 or 4 years on a rookie contract. So, like, I listen to any and every single suitor for Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Like, I'd be trying to convince the Browns, but they don't have any first-round picks after trading for Julio and Jarvis Landry. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr., sorry. I'd be listening to every single body. If I'm Indianapolis Colts, I'd be looking for Matt Ryan. Anyone with a high first-round pick, or anyone who I think is going to end up with a high first-round pick in 2021, and I'm the Atlanta Falcons. I'm listening to.
Neil, you.
I mean, I agree with Justin completely. I mean, right now, anything that is not the anything that is not
Complete.
the anything that is not the mascot got to go because past their prime in terms of their window for success in the NFL. Yes, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are still great players, but as Justin said, they're eating up a lot of money. The team, you can't justify paying that much money for a 1-16. They're definitely not going to make the playoffs, and judging by their schedule, not a lot of wins incoming. So, I don't know if they have tanking in the NFL like they do in basketball, but I'd start sweepstakes today.
There's a reason why Miami Dolphins have Tua Tagovailoa. That wasn't by accident.
Right. So to me, I think that everything must go hurry up and buy. I mean, Matt Ryan has to go. Julio Jones has to go. I mean, if they do keep one, I mean, I don't. If they keep Julio Jones or Matt Ryan, so be it. But as Justin said, I may wait for what's his name?
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, the name just slipped my head. I would make room for Trevor Lawrence, so that means Matt Ryan has to go. That would free up some cap space, and that would give me the opportunity to get. To me, I'm not worried about the offense because you keep Julio Jones, you have Todd Gurley, your offense will be fine. I would look to bolster the defensive side of the football. They're having some serious problems on that end, and yeah, I don't know what to add to what Justin said. That hasn't been said before. It gotta go.
Oddly enough, Julio Jones has to be the first to go. Granted, to me, he's still probably the best or second or third best wide receiver. He's a man that can guarantee me a first-round pick. So he has to go. And I mean, it sounds weird, but Matt Ryan has to go too. In some order, they got to go. Because Matt Ryan...
It don't make sense keeping Matt Ryan if he can get rid of Julio Jones.
Right, and especially at that $40 million... Especially at that $40 million cap hit next season. There's no way I'm eating that much in the cap space for a guy who is not going to get me. As I said, the contract alone without the cap hit is affordable. But at $40 million for a 1-16 and a team that did not make the playoffs last season and is just reinventing, everything has got to go.
Now, guys, sticking with the NFC, moving from the NFC South to the NFC East. Dallas, they're third in that division.
Marsha? I think we lost.
Had to be talking about Dallas and lose Marsha.
Marsha there?
Yes. So did you guys catch the question?
No, we did not. Probably for good reason, but no, we didn't.
So focusing on the NFC East now, turning our attention to the Cowboys. They're currently third in that division. They're 2-5 behind the Eagles and Washington. Looking a little bit different from last week. What has gone wrong there?
I think the better question is what has gone right. I think that's an easier question to answer. I mean, when you look at it, they don't have Dak Prescott. He's injured over the season, and the Dalton just got injured. They're third in the worst division in all of football, and it's the league as well. Everything are just bad, right? So when you consider that, I don't know. I don't know if the question should be what has gone wrong. It's like nothing is going right at all. I mean, they have injuries. Before then, they couldn't play. They had passing. They had the passing yards to bolster their offense was fine, but their defense, they can't stop. They're like a sieve. I don't know what to say. I mean, they're so bad that you are third in the NFC East. I don't know. This is one of those questions, right, where you're asked the question and you know the answer, but it's like so many things. So much information to put out there, right? I think the only good thing that they've had is their new stadium. I honestly don't know what to say. They're bad. They're really, really bad. And the way the rest of their schedule is set up, it can get worse. That's the joke about it.
So Neil, who would you put the blame at, Neil?
I don't know. I mean, Jerry Jones, every year you say Jerry Jones, but he ain't gonna take the blame. I don't know. I mean, dumb luck. I honestly speaking, right? I was thinking about this. We obviously we get the questions before the show and we go through them and everything like that. We do our research and everything like that. And I was starting to do research and I said, Neil, you know what? I don't know if the listeners out there know as a Baku, but the Dallas Cowboys got a Baku on them and they need a bush bath because I cannot explain to you why year in, a year out, they may always finding ways to not make the playoffs. And this year is even more.
But they remain the most valuable sports team in all of sports, across all continents, across all disciplines, across everything. They're the number one valuable sports team.
Because they're holding on to the past, man. I mean, they were really good at some point in time, especially in the 90s. I think they're holding on by the fingertips to that legacy. That Dallas Cowboys team, even if they came through the door, they'd be old and in wheelchairs.
I'm still better than this one.
I was just about to, I literally was just, Troy Aikman would definitely take this team to at least 800. I think, not 800, but they would win some games. The Dallas Cowboys, in terms of putting the blame on someone, man, I mean, it's rare not to put the blame. I think this is a combination of dumb luck. Jerry Jones is to blame, their coach. Like, there's so many different things, so many different pieces going here that make this team so bad. Is that every year they don't make it. They fire coaches, they, acquire great talent, but they're in the worst division in the history of sport. So I don't understand. And this year, it was supposed to be their year. You heard the Dallas Cowboys fans saying, yeah, we got this. But then Dak Prescott goes down. And then Andy Dalton on concussion protocol last night. He questionable now. So who's their third? Do you know who's their third string quarterback?
I actually don't, Neil. I really don't.
It may very well be Troy Aikman.
I do know who to blame, though. So I thought about it hard. And we've heard the reports of unnamed, I hate this, but unnamed Cowboy players saying that the coaching staff is not good, not having them prepared. I don't want to hear that because you were not good last year and that coaching staff was not there then. So, you know me, I like my letters and numbers combined. So I'm going to start with 1B before I make my way up to 1A. 1B is players. Ezekiel Elliott, let me look at you first and foremost. Without Dak Prescott, yes, Zeke Elliott. Without Dak Prescott, you are supposed to be leader of this team. What you are leading in, though, you are leading all running backs in fumbles and drop catches. That is what you are leading them in.
I don't mean to cross you, right? But, Ezekiel Elliott is one of those guys that, yes, you would say he would be the guy to step up and be the voice in the locker room, the leader and everything like that, but that's not Ezekiel Elliott. Even forget the numbers, if you just look at him as personality, right? These are intangibles. You can't really measure them and everything like that. But Ezekiel Elliott is about Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott is about his money, his stats, and his performance. So,
which is fine, but when I'm paying you...
If he came into the locker room, and we are Dallas Cowboys, the three of us, and he came in there, he was like, all right, guys, we got to, give as much as we take and play Dallas football. And like, brother, not how you try to put us over the course of the last few seasons for contract negotiations and all this behavior. Like, the boy trying to hear that.
But here's the thing, right? You and Marsha, so sorry, Marsha. We've all played sports, and we know there are two ways to lead. You can lead by words off the field, or you can lead by your actions on it. So, okay, Ezekiel Elliott is not that guy with words off the field. But on it, I'd figure if I'm paying you $90 million a year, a $90 million contract as the best football or running back in all of football, that you would at least perform like it and not lead the league in fumbles and drop catches at the position and not look anything unlike a Pro Bowler. And speaking of not looking at the Pro Bowl, let's continue down because remember I said won't be. So it's the players. When I look at somebody like Jaylen Brown, you're being paid as one of the best linebackers in football, and yet still Dallas defense is historically bad on that side of the football. Not bad for the division, not bad for the NFC. Historically bad.
All
Time bad. But you know why the players are 1B and not 1A? Because the players didn't pay themselves, Martian. But you know who did pay them? The owner,
Oh,
the president, general manager himself, Jerry Jones. 1A chief culprit, chief cook, bottle washer, and the main problem in all of Dallas.
but but not to cross you, right? Not to cross you, right? But when you asked me that question about who is to blame, I know you were going at Jerry Jones, and I agree. But then he's the owner. He is
Hold on,
Jerry.
Neil. And here's the problem with what you just said. He is the owner. Other titles I call. No, if you're the owner, that's fine. And this is not to say Jerry Jones does not understand football, or better yet, the professionalization of sport. Because as Marsha correctly alluded to, not only are the Cowboys, who have not won a Super Bowl since 1995, not only are the Cowboys the most profitable sporting franchise, most valuable sporting franchise in the NFL, but in all of sports, not American professional sports, in all of sports. So obviously Jerry understands the business of sports. You can never hold that against him. The issue, Jerry wants control of everything, and he is the general manager. Why on earth are you, as an owner, the general manager of the team too? You mentioned Dak Prescott, Neil. Did you know that over the last 2 seasons, Jerry Jones has handed out big contracts, and by big contracts, I mean starting at $10 million a year, to 5 different players. I can call them. I mentioned the aforementioned Ezekiel Elliott, the aforementioned Mari Cooper, the offensive tackle, Dale Collins, and I'm missing one more. Hold on. And DeMarcus Lawrence, the highest paid. And you have paid each and every one of them, but the most valuable part of your team, Dak Prescott. Whether you believe that Prescott should be paid what he was asking for, the reality of the situation is this is your most important piece, not only on offense. He is the leader of your franchise. He has been the face of your franchise like none other. Like, he's done it on the field. The man does not miss games. He has performed to a high Pro Bowl level standard, so much to the point that since he has been drafted into the league, the only player that's had more wins at the quarterback position than Dak Prescott is Tom Brady himself. That gets you wins, and guys on the field. He is not a distraction off of it. He is the face of your franchise, and you have chosen not to take care of this player, but you have taken care of 5 others in a span of 2 years. Jerry Jones is the problem. Now you hear the staff. Who hired them? Jerry Jones. Instead of going out for people, whom would have, I don't know, held these players to task, you went out and got, and granted, I owe Mike McCarthy my last Super Bowl. Like, without him, we don't win that last Super Bowl in 2010, 2011 season. But the reality is Mike McCarthy has the reputation of not being a hard-nosed coach and not one that will take the glory for winning a title. And that is exactly what these Cowboys need, and the type of coach that Jerry Jones does not want, because we've known from since the Jimmy Johnson era that Jerry does not want a coach that will take the glory for winning. He wants all the adulation must go to him, all the praise. It's his team. But you're the owner. You're not the coach. You're not the general manager. Well, you are the general manager. You need to take a damn step back. You cannot look at Mike McCarthy. You can't look at the players, because you have put the paycheck to each and every one that is a problem there. The issue is you. And it's you. And until Jerry Jones decides to take a step back. And I'm not telling you to sell the team, because clearly, even though you have not won big since '95, the team is extremely valuable. I'm just saying, take a step back from football operations, give up the general manager, and I'm not even talking to your son, Stephen Jones. Give it to somebody outside of your family that is a football person. You've seen the Falcons release Thomas Dimitroff. You can go behind him because he was a couple plays away from winning the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, and franchise has been terrible ever since. But go after Thomas Dimitroff, the guy that built the current Kansas City Chiefs as we know them. There are good general managers out there, but clearly, Jerry Jones, you are not one of them.
But but hold on a minute, Marsha. I just want to add, you saying Jerry Jones, right? Jerry Jones. No, that brought to mind my very own beloved Raiders, and one Al Davis, who coached the Raiders at a point. He was the owner. He was part owner. He was general manager. And when he gave up control of the Raiders, when he died. And that's what's going to take for Jerry Jones to give up, relinquish the power and be hands off. Because as you said, Jerry Jones, he remembers those glory days. He remembers those 90s championships. And he has those rings, and he has well manicured hair. He has the nice suits and everything like that, because he wants that adulation. He wants that. He wants to be that charismatic owner that put together the kit and caboodle and controls everything. But you know what? His ilk is dying out. His ilk, that is not how football is done anymore. Football is not.
You brought up your Raiders, but sad to say, and I don't mean this as a shot at you, Neil, but since Rich Gannon in 2001, when have your Raiders been relevant? And it's to the same point again. Al Davis would not relinquish control, and it took his death. And as you say, I agree with you, Neil. It's probably going to take the same in Dallas. It is going to take for Jerry Jones to die. The problem is that Stephen Jones is going to be in place, and he's going to see that this is how his father ran the franchise, and he's going to do the very same thing. So,
well, you never know. Sometimes the successor comes and upsets the apple cart, especially in the family.
And that's what's going to take, because you can't. And I'm not saying you're not a great owner. You clearly are. Your team is extremely valuable. You're giving them Jerry's world with that brand new stadium. As Neil said, that's probably the best thing in Dallas. But at some point, you have to realize and look. The problem is you. It's not coaching. You've gone through so many coaches. You've gone through different quarterbacks since Troy Aikman is gone. And the problem, you've hired these people, you cut the paychecks to these people, and you refuse to relinquish football control over the Dallas Cowboys. And as such, has not won, 3 playoff games since 1995.
Well, guys, I think this is the perfect place for us to wrap up this episode tonight. Thank you so much for joining us right here on YouTube, whether you watched us live or you watched us on the replay. Be sure to hit that like button. We need your likes, we need your comments, we need your shares. And of course, don't forget, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss a moment. You won't miss an upload. You won't miss a live. So much action to follow. Also follow us on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we're also on Facebook. That's it for us this evening on this Just In. I'm Marsha Boyce.
I am Justin Marvel.
And I am the Neil Hoyt.
Saying good night.
Good night, everybody.
I don't have a mark on my face, and my upset's not in Memphis, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the kingdom out of here just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.